Well, 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 the Reaper comes for us all, and CD Projekt Red may not be an exception this time. People are mad over this Cyberpunk 2077 release, as they probably should be, and not because the game is a glitchy mess, not because the game isn't fun. By a lot of accounts, it's actually a very fun game. I've been playing it. I've been having an okay time. I have a decent PC that can run it just fine, but that's not the issue. The issue is, did the management team at Cyberpunk 2077 or CD Projekt Red, did they lie to literally everybody? Yes. Yes, that should be very clear by now that they have been lying the entire time. Not that lies in media have ever done anything, right? I mean, other than that cliff right there on December 18th, if you notice, their stock price is in the gutter. This has cost CD Projekt Red almost $2 billion so far. It has crippled their credibility with gaming audiences and with their own investors. And that may be the source of their next woes. And this is a weird sort of decision. But let's talk about what happens when investors sue companies over misrepresentation and why they can and all of that stuff. All right, so you're an investor. You take a chunk of money and you give it to a company and you say, make something great. Do it. Please make something. And then when you do make something great, because we believe in you, you will make money on that thing and you will hopefully return some of that money to us, either through things like dividends or by just adding value to the property that I own, which is the piece of paper that says I own part of your company. I own it. It's mine. This is the whole issue with a public company. Public funding, an initial public offering can infuse a lot of cash into a company to allow them to operate in a specific way. But in doing so, they're actually selling part of that company off. They're saying, we're going to give partial ownership to a whole bunch of different people who won't individually have enough ownership to outvote us, but we'll have some say in the company's operations through publicly accessible meetings and public reports on our income and our performance. And they will then own a part of the company. We get a bunch of cash. They take home a piece of paper that says that this is theirs. Once you do that, the company then owes a duty to those investors. And we've heard about this before. It's often said in a rather scathing way, oh, this company's only obligated to its investors. Well, it is obligated to its investors because the investors gave that company a bunch of money on the promise that it would fulfill certain obligations to them. And the main obligation is to not waste the value of the property. They can make mistakes, they can do things wrong, but they can't do some act that will diminish and should be expected to diminish the company's value for the investors without getting some sort of approval to do so. There are certain companies that have taken measures which may reduce its profitability for some sort of public policy idea, like green energy and stuff like that. But those things tend to not be of the same caliber as lying to everyone, including the other investors who, again, are part owners of the company. If you go out and buy one share of CD Projekt Red stock, you own a little bit of it, and it's not a lot, and it's even less right now, $18. You can buy 3 shares of stock for the same price as the game. Whereas just earlier in December, it was $30 a share. So we're talking about a significant decrease in value. And that decrease in value seems to have come from their misrepresentations about the state of the game going up to launch. This is a huge problem for them. Had they been honest about it and delayed the game to produce a better product, or had they been upfront and said, we're going to release the game, we know it's a mess, please have faith in us that we will be patching this, but we wanted to get this into people's hands by Christmas so it could be under the tree waiting for people. Whatever they had to do, they could have done that. They could have taken an honest approach to the game. Instead, they acted like nothing was wrong. They misrepresented to game reviewers, they misrepresented to the buying populace, and they misrepresented to investors about just how bad it was. Even on a recent marketing call that I covered on my other channel, which you will find linked in this, as well as all of the things that I'm talking about, all of the 3 different sources I have, they'll be linked in the description below. Check them out because we're not going to go through all of them. If you go check out the video I did, which covered some of the marketing call that they did following their rather disastrous release. And the problem, again, the release isn't, I mean, it's bad, but it's not the worst thing that could happen. Other games have had worse releases and recovered, and they have gone on to be pretty successful. It's about the lies. It's the lack of integrity that CDPR has had, and that is what is putting them potentially on the block for a lawsuit. Again, this loss of value coming from honest decisions wouldn't give the same potential liability issues that it did coming from misrepresentations to the investors. Okay, but where are these misrepresentations, right? This article from Defector talks about one of them. First of all, the investors are alleging that they were just dishonest with them, but they were dishonest with everybody and in public. And here's one of the ways they did that. This is covering a November sort of thing with CD Projekt Red where they sent review copies out, but they wouldn't let anyone air any of the footage that they had produced. They would only allow approved footage from CD Projekt Red. There's in Wired Magazine, this is covered by Cecilia De Anastasio. It says, in November, CD Projekt Red sent non-disclosure agreements to journalists ahead of Cyberpunk 2077's launch that forbade the inclusion of original gameplay footage in their reviews. They could share screenshots, but the only gameplay footage they could publish had to come from CD Projekt Red. Infringing obligations in the NDA could amount to around $2,700 per violation. That's a liquidated damages clause, and that says that we can't calculate how much damage your violation of this non-disclosure agreement will be, so we're going to agree that it's this amount, $27,000, if a journalist were to have released, video of the game. We saw this earlier where they also threatened to copyright strike anyone who had procured by accident a legal copy of the game. If people don't remember that story, Best Buy, I believe it was, accidentally sent out a bunch of retail copies of 2077 to people who had legally purchased or pre-ordered the game. It was sent out to them, and so CD Projekt Red put out a statement actually threatening people, saying, hey, please don't stream our game. We don't want any spoilers. Please don't stream our game prior to the release date. And if you do not listen to us asking nicely, we will send people down to take down your video. That was actually the wording that they used, that they would send down the people who take down videos after you. So they would use the DMCA process to avoid spoilers. But in reality, it was the state of the game, those retail copies likely being console copies going to people with Xbox Ones or PS4s, not the newest generation consoles, who they were worried would stream the game and show how bad it was. And again, in that marketing call, CD Projekt Red flat out admitted that they knew how bad it was. They just thought they could get it done at the last minute, even though now they're saying it'll take until February to really be fully finished. So that is a big problem for them. They have public statements talking about how they knew what the status of the game was. They withheld review copies for consoles from journalists and from reviewers. They only sent out PC copies because it was the only stable version of the game. They knew that. They knew that. And that all is feeding into this lawsuit. But the real question is this lawsuit a good idea? I don't think it is. I don't think it's that good of an idea. First of all, CD Projekt Red has taken a huge income hit, and they have taken a big hit to their actual value of the company, and adding a lawsuit that is likely to carry on for a year to 2 years will add investor uncertainty and reduce desirability for the property itself, which means you're not going to have people buying the stock if this lawsuit is either the threat of the lawsuit is looming or if the lawsuit itself is in action. People are going to be less likely to buy, which will suppress the stock. It may even reduce the value further. And this is a gambit that shareholders run when they talk about suing the company they've invested tons of money in, especially while they're already down. This news could suppress CD Projekt Red's, operating capital for a very, very long time. And if it does that, they may not be able to do as much to fix the game. If the investors were to allow them to keep going without the threat of a lawsuit, they may be able to patch the game, make it into something that will be something great over time, and rebuild their credibility with the people who buy it. They should rebuild the credibility with their investors as well. But in doing this, they may be putting a stopgap on the ability for CDPR to go ahead and recover from it. And if they do that, they're kind of cutting their own faces here, and that is the risk. I know these investors feel like they've been wronged and they've been hurt, and they have. However, the recovery of the damage to them may be best served by letting CD Projekt Red, if they believe there's potential there, letting them repair their reputation and rebuild the value of their company by doing the right thing from now on. But it's not up to me. It's not up to you unless you are an investor. It may be up to them, and there may be some law firms out there with very greedy fingers looking forward to dropping the hammer on CD Projekt Red for this. You can see law firms in New York and Poland may be filing suits against the developer, and those lawyers will get paid an absolute fortune no matter what happens, and that will be something that could be very devastating to CDPR and to the investors in the long run. But we'll see what happens if a lawsuit does come down. I will cover it here. If you're interested in this type of news, please go ahead, hit like, subscribe, and share it around. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good day. Peace. Peace.